Ladies and gentlemen, today we're here to draw the full figure facing the side. Now, just like some of my previous videos, I am going to go fairly quickly through this, and you can pause, rewind, rewatch certain aspects of the video. Similar to the forward-facing figure, I am going to start with the head because the head does determine the proportions of the rest of the body. So we're going to start off with that, and again, pause, rewind, rewatch any sections of this video that you may need to. Starting off the head, we're going to draw first a circle for the majority of the head. Now, with the side-facing figure, I am going to start on the side here like this, and I am going to be drawing the close-up on the head in particular. But for right now, what you can do is do almost like an ice cream cone shape like this real quick. A circle, and then off the side of the circle here going straight down and coming back to this section in the back like this. And then we're just going to close that off, and that's going to be our sort of simplified side-facing profile view of the head. From that, the neck will come down, and that's going to come out in the back like this and in the front like this. I often sometimes feel like the back might curve even more like that. Now we are going to use the head as our proportion for the rest of the body. So one head height here, and we're going to move down and draw our second. And I'm just going to map out how tall this whole figure will end up being. We're going to do one here. Here's our second. And our third. 4. 5. 6, 7 and a half. So approximately that tall will be our full figure here. Now, just like the forward-facing figure, we do have some guidelines that are going to help us, but not all of them are going to line up just right because with the forward-facing figure we were dealing with symmetry. In this one we are not dealing with symmetry. In fact, obviously we're going to be drawing someone who's facing towards the right. Coming down from this, though, we will make one of the same marks that we did in the forward-facing figure, which is the shoulder, which is that half of that second head height. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3. That's a 4, so don't misnumber them like I just did. There's a 3. So that's going to be the point of the shoulder. So we can include that, but I also think that it's not like directly in line here. I think that the shoulder might be set back slightly. So I'm going to move back here and adjust. I think the shoulder's going to be about here. That's going to be the point of the shoulder. But what I want to do first is I want to get the shape for the torso. Now, this might sound a little morbid, actually, but the torso is sort of coffin shaped. And let me show you what I mean, and then you can draw it yourself. The base of the coffin is going to be the waist at 3. So that's going to be the waist, the bottom of the coffin. And we're going to come up, and sort of the point of the chest might be at 2 there. So it's going to measure up nicely. Half of 2 is the top of the coffin. I'm going to come back in the back like this, and then back down for the waist. Now, as you can see, that's the coffin shape I was referring to. It's not perfect, but it's a good starting point for the connection of the neck, which will come down to the back like this, and you can kind of soften out some of these edges now. You can see that kind of serves as our torso shape. We will come back to the arms in just a second. Let's continue on with the hips. Now the hips are slightly above 4. It's going to be almost like the apex, the top of the hips. So we're going to come down off the back like this, go into the posterior, and go down like this, give it a little bit of a curve there. Now the front doesn't really do a whole lot. The front might just come down straight like that. And give it a little bend from the coffin shape that was above. And this then connects all the way down to half of 6, which is the knee. So we can come all the way straight down like this. Just a cylinder that is getting thinner as it goes, tapering off. You might see a kneecap there. You might see a little bump. So you might see this little definition there for the kneecap. And then continuing on all the way down to the ankle, which is the base of 7. Thinning from the knee all the way down. You might give it a little bit of calf muscle actually for the calf on the back here. So we have a little bit of definition for the kneecap in the front, a little definition for the calf muscle in the back. And then the foot. So the foot actually is one thing that I think a lot of people make too small in the beginning stages. And if you may have even heard of the proportion of the foot being basically the same size as your wrist to your elbow, and that is true. So if we do wrist to elbow, going back to our proportions from the forward-facing figure, the elbow would be at right above the base of 3, right here, and the wrist would be all the way down to about 4. So yeah, like a whole head height for the size of the foot. Okay, now a lot of people don't think that looks right, that they think that the foot might actually be a little smaller. But you do need to have a foot that would support this full human figure. So mine's going to be about that big. You'll come down off of the ankle for the heel of the foot, and you don't necessarily have to draw a bare foot here, but you would come up a little bit for the arch, down for the ball of the foot, and then the toes outside of that. Now again, this is a side-facing view. You might see a couple of the toes, but really that's, there's not a lot of detail there with the side being, overlapping some of them. Coming down off the ankle in the front, it does have a little bit of that tapering triangle feel, so it's going to look a little bit like that. Now you can draw a shoe, that's perfectly fine. In fact, this would be a normal view of a shoe. If you wanted to include that, you could. I'll just draw a larger one here. The sole first. I'm just going to draw like a normal Converse shoe here. Just because they're easy to draw. Just drawing the parts basically. I'm going to include the section for the laces in the front like this, maybe the tongue of the shoe also. Give it a little indication of some laces as well. Give it some detail, that'll look good. There you go, there's a little side view of a shoe. Let's do the arms. So we go back up to the arms. Now I'm going to rotate this arm out in front. I'm just going to put this arm out here in front. I'm not changing the size or the length of the arm. I'm literally just taking this point and rotating it out forward. It should still be the same distance. Now we put a mark there for the elbow, which was right above 3. That's the distance I'm talking about. So from the point of the shoulder, which we established earlier, to the the elbow on the arm, about 1.5 inches there. So I'm not going to really change the length. I'm just basically rotating it out in front. So it's come from here to here. Okay, and I'm going to take the shoulder there and start at that point and just go do a small sort of decreasing in size cylinder there, and that will serve as a nice bicep there. And then from the elbow to the wrist would be right at 4, so we're talking right there to right there, a little bit more than 1 inch for me, and that's going to be the forearm, so approximately right there. And that is, again, using the measurements that we did from the forward-facing figure. I haven't changed anything there. That was right above 3 to 4, so a little bit more than 1 head length. Sorry. Once we get to here, I did want to draw a more realistic hand at this point. In the forward-facing figure, we just had hands down to the side like this. Now for this, we actually can see the side of the hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a hand here, but I'm also going to draw a larger version right here. As it comes up to the wrist, this would be a zoom in on just the wrist right here. So this right here will be this right here. As we come into the wrist like this, you can think about like a fan shape. Now the fan shape is going to, so this is, we're going to be drawing the right hand, and it does make a difference. The right hand like this, we are going to completely forget about the thumb right now, and what I want you to notice is how straight this line is, right? Okay, so we're coming off the wrist, we're just going straight into the pointer finger, and that's gonna go straight like that, and then I'm gonna have a fan shape beside it. Just a slight fan shape. Okay, and once you have that, half of this palm, or half of your hand, by the way, the hand size, to determine that, another thing, just like the feet, this is where people might often make a mistake. This should be at least the size of your visible face, so your hairline down. Your hairline, we learned, was about a third of the way from the top of the head to the eye line. This is about the size of your hand. A lot of people make it too small. It should definitely be large enough that if you put this over your face, it would cover most of your face, okay? Half of that is going to be just the palm of your hand, okay? So that's all of this right here. Then we do, now, you know, obviously the pointer finger, the middle finger is the longest, ring finger is, you know, probably around the same size as the pointer finger, and then the pinky is smallest. So we're going to do arcs for the knuckles, but we're going to take into account that the pinky is smaller and gets smaller on that side. 2 arcs because you have 2 sets of knuckles there. And your pinky might not reach the top here, but you can start putting in the fingers after this once we do that. Now obviously this is, you can do adjustments here to make sure that the fingers are the right sizes. This ring finger is going to be slightly smaller, and the pinky is going to be really, you know, a lot smaller than the other 4, and barely reaching at. Okay. Now what about the thumb? We can get the thumb in there too. Now the thumb is kind of separate. It's going to start from back here. It's going to come up the same way, but it's almost like just a little triangle here off to the side, a little slice of the pie by himself. All right, so it's going to line up with that last knuckle there, and it's also going to line up with this knuckle here, if we were to extend those. And what's going to happen is it's going to come off the side like this. You have your, that's this, obviously we're drawing the thumb, but the first knuckle is what lines up with that, not this knuckle, but this knuckle right here. Okay, that's what we just drew. It basically just joins on the side there, okay? Now, if you're drawing the right hand like we just did, you could add items like the knuckle indentations or the fingernails, and that would be very helpful. You do one small change and it's going to end up being the left hand, right? That small change would be this, taking from this and then now creating these details by including that thumb and where it comes into the palm. You could even have lines on your hand like that. You know, that would make it the left hand. Now, if you want the right hand, then you just ignore that. You can start even taking out some of your guidelines. Even though the knuckles are a nice indication of where those should be, so you can kind of keep that a little bit if you'd like. And then enter in some of these details. There we go. That looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Okay. So add that to your drawing. We're going to do one more thing here, and that's put this other leg in the picture somewhere. But before we do that, let's add the other arm. We can do that. Now that you have established that one, it's going to follow pretty much the same rules. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just rotate it into the back, behind the figure. Now you could do, again, you can make choices here as to which is the right hand and which is the left hand, but this, I'm gonna make my decision that this is the right hand, and I'm gonna erase that, so now it stands out as in front. What I'm gonna do now is do the same drawing of the other arm, but I'm gonna rotate it out to the back. Same way, you know, we're not changing the length of this right here, we're just changing the orientation. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw the whole thing, and then I'm gonna do erase what I don't need afterwards. And again, I kind of like doing this only because it helps with my proportions, to draw like it's see-through, and then erase what I don't need later. Elbow to wrist, remember it was from right above 3 to right on 4, so it should be almost a little bit bigger than a head height. Around that corner there, I'm just going to put this arm out and back like this. Let's put another hand on it while we're at it. Okay, let me erase what I don't need there. Since this arm is behind, we're going to erase this part. So it looks like it just comes out the back there. Now, honestly, now that I have this drawn, it does look a little large, so I'm probably going to change the height on that. I'm sorry, the length on that. Now, see, this is all about adjusting, you know. Even though this is a mistake that I've done, I've learned now that I need to adjust as I go along. So if it's not right, don't just sit there with it being incorrect. You can change things. You can move things around. You can make sure that it is correctly in proportion. Just make it a little shorter and like tuck in slightly. That looks a little bit better as far as proportions. That looks a little bit better. Nice. Okay. Moving on. Let's do another leg here. I'm going to put this, let's just put it out in front like he's taking a step forward. I know this kind of looks like a funky little jazz hand. Let's just put little marks around it so he has jazz hands. There you go. Let's put another leg in this drawing, and I'm going to put that out in front. Now, again, I'm not really changing the size. I'm just rotating. So I'm taking from hip to knee point here and just pulling that out in front. I'm going to just double check my measurement to make sure it's about right. Almost 2 inches there, just about 2 inches there. Perfect. So it would rotate from the same point, but you know, this point that we have for the hips is really just kind of containing the hips as well. All right, so this shape for the other femur is not going to, it's going to include that sort of like, that's the rotation point, okay? I can already tell that looks a little long, so I'm going to end it slightly sooner. Okay, and that's going to be my second leg here. I'm really just going straight down for the next aspect of this, from the knee to the ankle. And again, I was just looking here at this one and sort of replicating that. Going to kind of fit the foot in here by pointing the toe. And again, I really just did that from looking at this drawing and estimating the size. It does look a little large, but I'm going to stick with it. I think it looks all right. And now, again, you would then just erase the parts that you wouldn't normally see. And since I want that leg on the opposite side, we're going to put it in front by erasing over here. All right, now we have our side-facing figure. Now, looking at this in the end result here, I would probably add some clothing just so it kind of like makes it feel a little bit more complete. Maybe a little bit of shading, indications of where that might occur. Put a little hoodie on this guy or girl. Or non-conforming. A little bit of looseness to the clothing and help that fit a little bit better. There we go. And the next step of this would then be to complete the portrait the side view of the face. So that will be the next part of this. So there you go, a side-facing figure in proportion.